Hi everybody, it's Dr. Lowitzo. Welcome to week 5 of ALEC 341. I'm actually recording this video on Monday evening from Jacksonville, Florida, finishing up with a conference and heading home Tuesday morning. So thanks for letting me look a hot mess here in a hotel room. Pretty tired and worn out. Have been here and given 4 presentations in the last couple of days about different research projects, so just a little bit tired, probably getting some sort of cold. Children at home have the flu, my husband has the flu, so it's just kind of one of those weeks. Please bear with me a little bit here as I get through this video, kind of winging it a little bit, but going over the things that you need to be learning this week. Just a reminder, this is week 5. So for Wednesday, for our class meeting time, our in-person meeting time, please go to Innovation Campus. We will go to the KRVN studio there. I believe it's in the building that has the old mill. There'll be signs that tell you what floor, but I will also email you here shortly as soon as I hear back from Bryce about what floor, Bryce Duskett, that he is on. I have yet to be to the studio. So we'll have a little bit of an adventure Wednesday morning, 10 a.m., Innovation Campus, KRVN studio. Hannah Borg, if you're watching, send us a note. Let us know what floor Bryce is on. Otherwise, I'm waiting to hear back from him to let you all know. Worst comes to worst, look for each other at the old mill, find the studio, we'll go from there. But we'll make it, no problem, no worries. Email me. I'll email you directions here shortly, Tuesday, to let you know what's up. All right, so week 5, February 5th through 9th, we are kind of taking a little bit of a break from the podcasting textbook, and we are actually going to start focusing a little bit on our science literacy piece of class. So this is where we're going to start to dig into a few of the links that I have in this week 5 module for you to read. So don't just blow through those and skip over those. Become familiar with what they are. Click on them, do some reading, looking around on those sites. I'm going to walk you through them here in a little bit, but they will inform your online activity number 4. That is due February 13th, Tuesday evening. And then your reflection journal number 2 is separate, but that is also due February 13th, that Tuesday evening. So this week, please continue to reach out to your scientists. Give me updates through your reflection journal on where you are with that, since we may not have some class time to discuss. Keep emailing them, keep setting up those initial meetings with them, and start to develop your interview questions, because your interview questions will be due coming up here in a couple weeks. So start working on all of that as well. And then this thing about develop photo ideas, I'd like you to take a selfie with your scientist. We in this class, in all the streaming science classes, call them selfie with a scientist. So that'll be the little thumbnail, photo that goes onto SoundCloud with your podcast audio file, so people will see it. They love seeing you, the person who is producing the podcast, and then the selfie of you with the scientist. So make it something fun. I've had Diana Markham and Larkin Powell hold a stuffed prairie chicken in their photo. People have done it in labs with the DNA structure behind them, all kinds of cool stuff. So make it something fun. Make it something that you don't forget to take the photo when you record the audio. I had a lot of people in past classes do the interview and then forget to take the photo for the thumbnail picture. So don't forget to do that part as well. All right, so those 2 things coming up that are due on the 13th and going to KRVN. So when you are in the week 5 module, you're going to see this Project 2061 link, and it says read these links. You click on it. I have some links here to get you started down sort of this rabbit hole of things I want you to know about. This is to start thinking about what is science literacy, how do we follow along with what our scientists are doing, how do we follow along with what the latest movements and trends are in science. You might even remember that quiz we took for fun about what do you know about science, where it talked about the boiling points of water at the different altitudes, or it talked about who came up with the polio vaccine. It was sort of looking at American scientific knowledge. Well, an association I want you to know about is called AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science. So if you someday decide you want to be like Joe Palca's Big Idea or any of these other podcasts you've listened to in the past, and you want to feature scientists from all over the world or show some of the latest trends in science that people are concerned about, I think we're very agriculture and environment focused, as we should be. And we do have specific organizations for those things, the Farm Bureau, all of these things for us to keep track of, but also looking at the bigger picture of science as a whole and across disciplines in STEM and ag and environment, and see what some of the things are that's happening. Here's the AAAS site. We have so many scientists that are a part of this organization across the globe, right? So they're sort of producing Science Magazine. They have these annual meetings where they get together. They post some of their latest research here. They actually have a science communication research agenda that they put out each year that's great to keep track of. They have professional journals that people are publishing in, events. So as you can see right here, a big initiative across the top of their front page these days is called forceforscience.org. So if you click on that, it's going to take you to, they're actually calling on people to get involved in helping urge Congress to raise the current research caps that have been placed on science. And so they're calling on scientists to get a little bit more involved in some of the political issues that are going on with how budgets are being capped for scientific research. You may have heard of the March for Science that happened last year. They're starting to call on people to get involved in some of these efforts and calling on more scientists to become better public speakers, to better explain their science, to better increase the funding that's being cut. So that's just something that's important in a communication realm to keep an eye on right now. How are scientists trying to become better communicators, trying to be engaged in policy? How can we as science communicators be here to help with some of that? No matter our political leanings, how can we keep an eye on this sort of really interesting communication thing that's happening right now that scientists haven't been called on to do very frequently in the past? They publish in academic journals, they come to conferences like I'm at right now, and they talk to one another about their work. But this whole idea of trying to engage the public and policymakers to explain why their work is important and why we need to keep up the funding. Think of all these arguments we have in agriculture about people don't know where their food comes from, they're unsure about pesticides, they don't understand GMOs. That is tied to a lot of this about scientists being able to explain their work and having the proper funding for their work to be able to help people understand about food, energy, water, and sustainability issues. You see right off here, one of their top issues is climate change and science education. And that's impacting their work and impacting the funding that's being taken away and all of these things. So just something to honestly keep an eye on, and how it might impact the scientists that we work with in streaming science and the things that they're concerned about and discussing. Your video most likely will not go into some of these areas, but just so you know, they want to talk about solutions as well. We've talked about not framing the problem all of the time and adding noise to the problem with what we work on, but adding to some of the solutions. So when you talk to your big data scientists and look at the data sets they're working with and the problems they're trying to solve that might be tied to some of these issues the science profession as a whole is facing, that could be really interesting if you want to have some of those discussions with your scientists and what it's been like to have to explain their big data so that they can continue to get funding and continue to get support from constituents and policymakers and all of these things. And how are they trained to be communicators, and how are they trained to help make sense of big data for public groups? Could be some really interesting discussions to consider in your podcasts. Okay, so another reason why I'm very passionate about AAAS, they have this thing called Project 2061. So you will get to that website from some of the links I posted. And the idea is Project 2061 is tied to going back to that quiz and that idea of here's what we hope most Americans will know about science, technology, engineering, and math by the year 2061. So this is 2018. What, we have 40 some years to go here. I'm terrible at math, as you know. But here are the benchmarks that AAAS has outlined. Back in 1993, they had a copyright. 2009, they had a copyright. So they've been working on this over time. Here are the benchmarks they hope most Americans will know by the time it's 2061. And so you can go through these and click on them. And this is for your online activity for the week. I want you to kind of think about these. The nature of science is one of the benchmarks, and they tell you sort of at different grade levels what they hope children know about these things. We talked about scientific inquiry as the new scientific method. You can click on these to see, well, what do they hope third through fifth graders understand about scientific inquiry by the time 2061 rolls around, the benchmark that we have for those age groups. You can look at related to our big data theme and podcast, the mathematical world. What do we hope people know about the mathematical world and the designed world by then? So these are sort of the things tied to all of the science literacy discussions we've been having. And this is a way, if you're ever going to be a science communicator who's developing things like the Ag Sack Lunch program with the Corn Board, or developing education and outreach initiatives with Monsanto to help people understand certain things about their food, or extension, pick your science communication, ag communication job. If you can start to help us address and change this profession to be working more closely with our scientists, as you can tell, I'm always pushing, and know how to look at things like Project 2061 from AAAS and say, okay, we developed this really cool outreach program for your children to learn about where their food comes from, and it's rooted in these benchmarks and standards for what we want them to know. Super cool, you guys. You have a great sound, airtight rationale. Not just we made a cute program because we thought kids would like it. That's not cutting it and working anymore. You need to have some real rationale behind what you're doing and developing. So I'm really passionate about getting you to understand and look at things like Project 2061. So I want you to pick pieces of that and dig through it. So as you can see, going back to AAAS here, their whole point for Project 2061 is this is what they hope is the critical and lasting improvement to our nation's education system for educators, researchers, policymakers. They really have these science learning goals and curriculum and assessment and ideas for teacher development. And AAAS, a big part of what they're doing is communicating public audiences and having and setting expectations for education and curriculum. So definitely go through Project 2061, click on, the standards that you are curious about and you are interested in investigating, and do that for your online activity and kind of sum them up and respond to those prompts I have there for you. Okay, the next piece I want you to know about that's connected to all of this, the book that we will be looking through and reading about Project 2061 and what the standards are and what we hope people learn. Because in this class, we also want to become more scientifically literate. Maybe you didn't do very great on that test quiz we took about what did you know about those different science questions. Maybe you yourself would like to listen to more of the types of science podcasts you tried out for your paper to become more scientifically literate. I want you to download this book. We're going to start reading chapters out of it over the next couple weeks that have to do with the different Project 2061 benchmarks. You can see that the book mirrors a lot of those projects you're going to look through for the week. It's not scrolling for me, but pretty cool book. I talked about this whole rationale of things I'm lining out for you at the conference and about streaming science, and I just presented about it. And I will tell you, other ag communication programs and professors are here, and they were taking notes about all of this stuff, and they were starting to think about how can they start infusing their ag com programs with some more science literacy and learning about benchmarks and things as well. So I want you to feel like this isn't a chore. This isn't like, oh, why is she making us do this? It's not tied to agriculture or whatever. It's tied to it, and we're sort of pushing the ground here for showing people how to better develop our science and ag communication around these principles and in concert with our science communities. So if you are thinking, I'm not a scientist, I'm not going to be a scientist, I'm really going to work for more of these agricultural or environmental groups, I need to know where my work goes. I need to know where I might be able to learn and get professional development. At the college level, we have the Agricultural Communicators of Tomorrow that some of you are involved in, and you're still welcome to join at any time. Great group of students doing lots of outreach and fundraising and putting their communication skills to work in a lot of different ways. At the next level of that, the professional level of that, as you go out and become writers and broadcasters and public relations people and all these different things, is the Association for Communication Excellence, ACE. So a lot of our extension educators who do communication work come to this. Some of the people from commodity boards and groups come to this, and all kinds of industry organizations, and also professors such as myself come to this organization to present our research. There's also an academic journal tied to it where we're presenting research we've done related to all kinds of agricultural communication things. We're writing things right now, this article where we're questioning, is our profession where it needs to be? And are we pushing things in the right direction? And then there's the sort of standard research articles related to things about cognitive dissonance and water and conservation claims. Some studies here coming out of Florida about some of the crop issues they're having and perceptions related to different citrus greening diseases and things like that. I want you to be aware of that organization. I'd also like you to be aware of the Southern Association of Agricultural Scientists. That's what I'm at right now in Jacksonville. And there is an agriculture communications section of this conference where we mostly have a research meeting and present our latest presentations of our research. So for instance, I'm here, I presented about, you can see right here, piloting a participatory arts-based methods study for exploring Indonesians' experiences with biotech. So that was with Dr. Rick Goodman, a biotechnology professor, and Mary Garbix, where we used the iPads and let them share their experiences they had with us a couple summers ago in our biotechnology training program. I presented another one today about streaming science. I actually gave a professional development session where I showed everyone how we've built these classes using the project-based learning model, showed them the work that's coming out of these classes, and then also all the tips and tricks and tools we're using for the electronic field trips and our research with that. So I just want you to be still excited about what you're learning and working on in this class. And know that your podcasts are a great example to other AgCom programs around the country. And hopefully, because of the work I did here this week, we will have potentially the University of Georgia and maybe a couple other collaborators joining us, so their students will also start creating streaming science content. So that's what I have for you this week, is for you to explore Project 2061. Start to become aware of AAAS and where scientists go and collaborate and how they work. And then also doing those online activity number 4 and reflection journal number 2 by February 13th, that Tuesday. Thank you for putting up with me looking a hot mess here at the hotel, but I feel good that I'm getting this video done for the week. And I look forward to seeing you at KRVN on Wednesday and connecting with Bryce Duskett and picking up on some of his audio tips and learning about KRVN. All right, everybody, have a great week 5.